Hi, guys. I called on this press conference to let everyone know that I am, in fact, retarded. I know most of you already knew that, but just in case any of you still has any doubt whatsoever on whether I'm a retard or not, I want you to know that I am retarded. Oh, and Gavin Newsom is also retarded. He's super retarded. Oh, and every single Democrat, too. All Democrats are retarded. That's it.
Now, we're not supposed to talk like that as good Christian men, but not for nothing. I'll tell you, I'm surprised that the left is not trying to target AI for things like that, because people are going to be making videos like that all the time. And I'm sorry, I'll say it again. I've said it before. Joe Rossinello at the front line with Joe and Joe. I said it before. We know how to laugh. They don't. Yeah, they'll take that video and say, look, an example of hate speech, all right? Never know with what's going on in California right now. I can't think of a better word to use than retarded. Or either that or evil for what's going on there. Welcome everybody to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello, Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time. We're going into the breach. We hope we have a good crowd tonight. Joe and I are going to try a real push moving forward, along with our producer, to get out to a much wider audience. So stay tuned for some plans that we have. It's going to be the same format. We're going to provide the same content. Hopefully you like that content. We always ask you to like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Joe, I got to preface our conversation tonight with this. Wars and rumors of wars is all that I could think about when it comes to what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on. Remember, it's wars plural, okay? Ukraine and Russia. I don't see where there's any, unless you can correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, I don't see any headway. I see us going deeper. And now Trump, evidently, we at this show think that he's making a big mistake. And we got a lot of clips for you tonight, a lot of insight from a lot of people and a lot of commentary. So this is going to be a really good conversation. Joe, I don't know, am I off when I think along those lines?
Listen, it's supposed to be an America First agenda. Either, to be honest with you, he's caught up in his own ego, thinking that no matter what he does, his people are going to follow him. It's either that, or he's lost sight of the goalpost, or frankly, I've been listening to Steve Bannon a little bit, and ultimately, Bannon's like, these 200 days are make or break for Trump. And I would agree. I mean, it just goes to show you that the deep state is absolutely real. To be honest with you, nothing has changed. This is like George Bush light. This is George Bush light.
Is it even light?
Well, I mean, like, they're not, like, now they're hedging a little bit. I was looking at the news today. They're trying to hedge because he clearly has seen that the country's not for this. I saw a poll, 60% of America is against this, many Republicans. Then you have people who are indifferent, which is sad because a lot of people just don't pay attention. Only 16% of America is for this war. So, like, it's a loser. You're going to basically slit your own throat for Benjamin Netanyahu, who, by the way, only has a 30% approval rating in his own country. He does not represent the beliefs of Israel as a nation. Many people are against Benjamin Netanyahu. People just don't know that. They don't follow Israeli politics. So this is my point. You know, a lot of times people are just blanketed. You're against Israel. No, I'm against Benjamin Netanyahu. I think he has a horrible, horrible agenda, and I don't think history is going to be kind to this man.
Joe, I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to play a clip, all right, of all places from CNN, but nonetheless, it'll be useful. Don't get mad at us out there at the front line with Joe and Joe. I remember arguing with people back in the day that I was in favor of the hardliners in Israel. All right, mostly because of my views of Islam, and I don't think that's deniable. I mean, the fact that Israel has always been under constant attack, I don't think that that's deniable. But however, you have to meet force with force, and what they've shown in Gaza and why they've turned a lot of people off is that they've overdone it. Now, leaving that aside, that's a different conversation about Gaza. We're talking about Iran right now. But do you think maybe, Joe, I'm going to play a clip right now. You think maybe it's a little bit of the boy who cried wolf?
Deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close. And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. The foremost sponsor of global terrorism could be weeks away from having enough enriched uranium for an entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. That would place a militant Islamic terror regime weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
Now, I'm going to throw something over to you, and I'm going to want your comment on the video, but here's my thing. Call me naive. Hey, listen, plenty of people have called me stupid in my life, all right? And, okay, but here's my thing. I was in Jersey last week. We put on the news, all right, when I heard what was going on, all right? And I got to see my brother-in-law, Joe Rossinello, and my sister-in-law and my nieces and nephews, which was a beautiful, beautiful thing. I got out of the desert for a little bit. But here's the thing, Joe. You get the news that Israel has now bombed these facilities, right? They bombed energy facilities, nuclear facilities. They decapitated the regime. If in fact they had these things, and that goes back over 20 years, okay, those clips go back over 20 years that I've been hearing it from Netanyahu, okay, about Iran, many in America, Iran. But then when I watched over the weekend, Joe, and Iran was sending missiles back, do you think after what Israel did, if they had these things, they might have used them? Am I off in my assessment here?
No, that's a good point. And, you know, ultimately they said, as Benjamin Netanyahu, the sales pitch, that it's about stopping their nuclear capability. No, it's not. It's a regime change. You mentioned it was, if you look at where they dropped the bombs, they were targeting individuals. It was a regime change. And I'll be honest with you, Israel is its own nation. Do what you feel is right for you. Just like we should do what's right for us. Just like Germany should do what's right for Germany. Just like Russia should do what's right for Russia. It's not our business to police the world. We are not. You see, this is another thing that people can't, they don't want to accept. America for 60 years has wasted trillions and trillions of dollars. We have bases all over the world. We can't even give people health care, Joe,
right,
in this country.
Right.
Like, we're not the country that we were. The middle class in the middle of America is gutted, and it's soon to be gutted on both coasts. In California, it's gutted. So with people, they're living a delusion, many of them. This is not the country that I graduated high school from. My children are not going to have the life that I had, nor are yours. Whoever's
Joe,
listening
quick question. Wasn't MAGA supposed to reverse this?
Well, he's trying. I mean, whether he succeeds or not is another story. I mean, to be honest with you, Donald Trump is different in many ways than a lot of presidents. A lot of presidents, they go along to get along. Donald Trump did two things that threatened the establishment. He said, and we're going to play the clip, I am not for forever wars. That is a huge moneymaker for a small group of people in America, the military-industrial complex. Two, corporatism. He allowed someone like RFK to go after Big Pharma. No president has ever done that.
George Bush didn't do that.
No president. Dude, we're talking decades. So I'm not talking about, he's not shaking the tree. He's not cutting the tree down. However, it's undeniable that he is shaking the tree. When people have a problem with MAGA, it's a problem. It's not about that. It's about their power. It's about their power. And Donald Trump has threatened it. And that's why they went after him with the full weight of the country.
Right.
It's that simple. Like, listen, one thing I will say, no matter what happens in these next 4 years, the Donald Trump, like, political machine, we'll call it, it's been 10 years since he's come down that escalator, has shown me, as well as X, particularly because it's opened up the news a little bit, it has shown me just how corrupt our country is. And then you have the COVID era. I can't believe what I see. And people are just okay with it. You see, I'm not. I'm not okay with it. I don't know why you are. I am not okay with that because I have children.
I don't know. This is going to be a really thorough conversation for everybody joining us to the front line with Joe and Joe. We got a lot of clips here, a lot of different angles to approach this. We think here now, Trump, let's preface this by saying Trump has basically said, and it came out today, that he's giving Iran 2 weeks. That's what I heard. Okay. And they have 2 weeks, and it's supposedly there are meetings going on. There'll be a meeting in Geneva over the weekend. I think a couple of European nations are going to be represented there, and Iran. We'll see what happens. But let's play Trump, and let's just take a deep dive into this.
Okay. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction. Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Now, you can take it any way you want, and it took Jeb Bush, if you remember at the beginning of his announcement, when he announced for president, took him 5 days. He went back. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Took him 5 days before his people told him what to say, and he ultimately said it was a mistake. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
But so you still think he should be impeached?
I think it's my turn, isn't it?
You do whatever you want. You call it whatever you want. I want to tell you, they lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right. Governor.
Problem is, in hindsight, and we know this, all right, I believe that was from 2016, that clip, okay? So he was right about that, and it's unfortunate because of all the lives lost going to Iraq based on what we all believed. And I remember, Joe, my hands up, I'm guilty. I believed at the time, Colin Powell, Judas that he is, Brutus and Cassius that he is, okay? He all of a sudden got enlightened later on. He went up in front of the United Nations like Adlai Stevenson did in the 1960s with the Cuban Missile Crisis. He went up in front of the UN and showed the pictures and said they have weapons of mass destruction. So we all believed it. If we didn't believe George Bush, we believed Colin Powell. Donald Trump was right in 2016. Why on earth is he about to, do we think, or should we believe that Iraq has nuclear weapons? We just played a clip from Netanyahu going back to 1996. You know what it reminds me of? And then I'm going to throw it over to you. All the climate hoaxers for decades and decades. The world's going to end in 6 years. World's going to be uninhabitable in 7 years. That was 50 years ago. And every 5 or 10 years, they go and they re-up their estimates. It's the same thing. We're not buying it. And if Trump buys this crap, he's making a big mistake, Joe.
Well, again, I don't know what his thinking is. I also don't know what he sees. They don't have a good track record. I think we already proved that just by this show, by these clips, it's the same playbook. Here's another thought, which I recently really never thought about. I saw Matt Gaetz. Is that how you say his name? He's the Congress.
Matt Gaetz, yeah.
Matt Gaetz. He recently said in his analysis, why does Israel get to have a nuclear bomb? Why are they permitted and they refuse inspections by the globe? Why? It's a destabilizing factor. If you want to have a nuclear-free zone, why is Israel permitted to have a nuclear weapon? Right. It's a good question. Because to be honest with you, it's what drives Iran. It simply does. So that's something to even contemplate. All I'm going to say is this. I'm nothing against Israel. I don't trust Benjamin Netanyahu, nor do many of the Israeli people. he has a 30% approval rating.
Well, it's like E. Michael Jones always says. He says, you know, the problem in Israel is that those who have the voices of reason are the ones who are usually, let's say, suppressed. Their voices are suppressed. They're there. There's Israelis that do not like what Israel has been doing, especially on the cultural front.
There's Israel. There's Jewish people here who are anti-Zionists.
No.
But I'm just saying, like in New York.
Yeah, but the same way that the American Jews who are in charge of a lot of the levers of power, let's face it, I know that's an unpopular opinion because you can't say it publicly because you get in a lot of trouble, but it's a fact, okay? They don't like the Jews in Borough Park. They don't like the Jews in Passaic, New Jersey. They don't like the Jews in Lakewood, New Jersey. They don't like the Jews in Teaneck. And these are Jews because those people are the ones who say, well, first of all, we have a regime in Israel that's morally bankrupt. Israel is one of the most pro-abortion countries in the world, pro-homosexual countries in the world. Or Charlie Kirk gets up there and says, you know, Israel is one of the only countries that respects the rights of homosexuals. I don't care. That doesn't make them good. Because let's say, for argument's sake, they're open to homosexuality and they're very secular. Is my point.
It's funny you said that. I was just going to say that only 15%, the last poll that I heard, where they're religious. It's a secular nation. It's very similar to the European nations. It's a Mediterranean type of country. Like Tel Aviv is like being in Barcelona. I mean, It's a very, very similar type of country, and it's very secular. Now, that doesn't mean, again, I have nothing against them. To be honest with you, I'm completely indifferent. Who I am for is America.
Right.
And that's what I voted for, as well as many people. I am not interested in wasting my tax dollars. And they've already proven they do waste my money. They take my money and they waste my money. I'm not interested in giving money to another war. Period. End of story. I don't want to fuel their tankers. I don't want to give them air cover. Nothing. It's your business. You want to do it? Deal with it. We're out.
I think our job is like America should, and the European nations and others, okay, to bring humanitarian aid. Because if this escalates, I'm just doubtful that it's going to. I think the Iranians realize, look, they just got cut off. I mean, let's face it, these strikes by Israel and the regime, the leaders in the regime that they took out, Iran's got to really not be in very good shape right now. So I don't think that they're going to be stupid enough. I really don't. All right. I don't think they're going to be stupid enough to prolong this. I think they're going to do everything they can to try to survive, particularly the regime, because they want to maintain their power. That might be a little bit of a bone of contention because Israel and America, for that matter, they're probably going to demand that there's regime change. And that's going to be a whole other issue. All right. But yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. Humanitarian aid, absolutely. They're going to need it. Absolutely. Okay. But Lindsey Graham and some of the war hawks, you're talking about boots on the ground. Dude, I got two words for you, Lindsey Graham. Aside from get lost, my two words for you are Afghanistan and Iraq.
Get lost.
And they were both disasters.
Dude, for 60 years, Joe. We have bases all over the world. Why? We have people who can't friggin' get hospital care in the country, who can't get decent employment. I mean, it's absurd. I've never seen anything like it before in my life. It shows such an indifference. It's such a hubris. It's nauseating is what it is.
But I thought, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about what we're supposed to. Joe, remember, we're supposed to be good little boys, okay? And last time I checked, I've rebelled against God in my life. I've rebelled against my father, my earthly father in my life. Okay, these people, I'm not rebelling against them is easy. And when I mean rebelling, I mean within MAGA, within the Republican Party. I think you and I, and the people who watch us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, I think we're true MAGA. Because if we were in the House of Representatives, we wouldn't have given in for this big, ugly bill that they're about to pass that has very few of the promises that they had. But here's the thing. I thought the idea, and I'm hoping that Trump pulls what he did when Bolton stormed out of the room in his first term when they were about to bomb they were about to bomb some facilities in Iran, and Trump said, no, I'm not going to do it. It's going to cost people's lives. And at the end of the day, Iran didn't kill anybody. And Bolton, another war hawk, okay, another warmonger, he went ballistic on Trump. I hope Trump, not in 2 weeks either. I hope it's very, very soon he pulls that out of his hat. But here's the thing, Joe. This whole situation is going to require honest, and I mean honest, conversation about how Americans are supposed to view Israel.
Whether or not you believe in Christianity, whether or not you're a Christian, it doesn't matter. It is true that people who espouse violence suffer in the end. They do. I have seen it a lot. And I grew up in a world that espoused violence. That's what the U.S. government does. My dad was involved in it. And I just believe that. And maybe you don't believe that. That's fine. That is my core belief. I sincerely think that. But why the hate towards someone who's just like, hey, I'm hard. If you think, and I said this to an Israeli official, if you think I'm anti-Israel, man, you have lost the plot, son. If you think I'm your enemy, not at all. I like Israel. Are you kidding? I've spent a lot of time there. I continue to like it. I pray that Jerusalem is not damaged. I feel so sad for the Israelis who've been killed in the last couple of days and the Iranians who've been killed in the last couple of days who had nothing to do with any of this. But the point is, if you think that saying, hey, let's focus on my country where I was born, where my family's been for hundreds of years, that was the promise of the last election, please do it. If you think that's hate, you know, you've really lost perspective, I guess is what I would say.
And he's and I know that some people are giving Tucker Carlson a lot of grief. And we're going to play a clip in a little bit from his conversation with Ted Cruz. And that's going to take the conversation to a different level here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. We are way in the breach. Tucker Carlson's absolutely right, Joe. Is it to the point in America where if you say, I'm not going to war with Israel, for Israel, I'm not, okay? This is their problem. This is not our problem. We're not going to war. We're not going to, like you said, we're not fueling a tank. We're not sending a rocket. We're not sending a troop. We're not firing a bullet. As Tucker Carlson said, I don't want any American troops, unless it's an imminent threat against America. I don't want any American troops losing their lives. And the way Tucker's approaching it is true. If you say that right now in the popular culture, it's getting a little bit better than it used to be. You're an anti-Semite.
It's a tactic, Joe. That's how I don't even pay it that much attention anymore. It's just like the tactic of you're a racist. It's a tactic to shut you down. And it's not logical. And frankly, I have no time for it and I'm not hearing it. Period. End of story. You do your thing. It's your country. If you feel that this is a threat to you, well, then you have to take care of yourself. Ultimately, we have enough problems here. We do. That's not being callous. It's like me not feeding my children and feeding your son. I neglect my children. No, I have to take care of my children first before I take care of someone else's. That's just reality, and it's the same logic. America is not the country that it was. We have big issues. Financial issues, and we have social issues. We have to buckle down and take care of business here, and I'm not apologizing for that view. Period. End of story. And every single person in the country should see it the same way, because charity begins at home. Period. I don't know what else to say.
No, Joe, you're absolutely right. And we're joining us here at the front line with Joe. And Joe got a few people in the chat room. John B. I haven't seen John B. before. So, John, hopefully you're new to the show and you like the show. We got a lot of clip stories tonight. We're making a deep dive. Trump's big mistake. This is a big mistake. John says 2 weeks cooling off period. Pray for peace. Absolutely, John. We need to pray to God that he's going to move his hand in all this, okay? Because there are warmongers. We started this conversation, John, if you could join late, by talking about wars and rumors of wars. And that sounds awful familiar. And when you look at Ukraine and Russia, and when you look at everything that's going on in the Middle East between Gaza and now in Iran, you know, we gotta, you know, we really have to pray and pray hard for peace. And that's I pray for peace. I pray. No, really, on your knees, fasting for peace, to offer a fast to our Lord, to say, please, Lord, Bring peace to this situation. We don't want more people to die. But Joe, I'm glad you mentioned tactics because I forgot his name. And as a couple of guys who do podcasts, Joe, we shouldn't forget people's names, but I forget people's names sometimes. One of the Israeli ambassadors or spokespeople was on Fox News, right? And I happened to catch it. And this is what you get tired of. This goes back to what you said about racism, people who cry racism and slavery and racism and slavery. All right. And what does he do? Well, 80 years ago, there was a little guy with a funny mustache running around Europe and nobody took him seriously. And 6 million Jews died. Dude, stop with the comparisons to the Holocaust. Stop. We're tired of hearing it. We're not indifferent to the pain and suffering of Jews. If you are, you're not a Christian. But we're not indifferent to the pain and suffering of anybody, okay? And we are particularly not indifferent to the pain and suffering of Americans who are going to suffer if we happen to go to war. And that's a tactic too that people of goodwill have to start calling out to say, look, stop answering every question was your grandma and your grandpa survived Hitler. I'm happy they did, but I had nothing to do with that, and this is 80 years later. Hitler's dead and maybe in hell, probably in hell, okay? I say maybe because we shouldn't say anybody's in hell as Christians. That's God's decision. However, having said that, the bottom line is stop with the Nazi comparisons, okay? Because Iran is not Nazi Germany. Iran doesn't have the abilities that Nazi Germany did. So stop trying to shame us and use that tactic. And that's why I'm mentioning it, Joe, that tactic of trying to shame us and make us fear that the Ayatollahs are all of a sudden going to take over the entire Middle East like Hitler invaded Poland and France and Czechoslovakia and everything else. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying a comparison. And Joe, quite frankly, I'll throw it over to you. I'm tired of the tactic. I really am.
Well, like I said, I don't even think twice about it anymore. I don't entertain it. And frankly, people shouldn't either. They compartmentalize that. It's a tactic. It's gaslighting. That's how people operate. People have to start seeing through the nonsense, Joe. I'll be honest with you. The more I have been involved in this show and the more we do a lot of research, obviously, to put the show together. I also see how basically ill-equipped the average American is because, frankly, they watch ABC News and they eat it all up. Yep. Benjamin Netanyahu was on ABC News. You think that was like a coincidence? And people eat it up. How easily people are fooled. They can't see through the smoke. And frankly, they are the ones that are taken advantage of. It's your sons that have to go fight in a war. It's frankly your paycheck that gets garnished. It's the saddest thing I have ever seen. That people are so manipulated. They're so manipulated by propaganda. Yeah. Even I haven't watched one single second of Fox News, but I do see clips on my X feed. Nothing but Israeli propaganda. All of them are beating the war drum. They haven't learned one single thing from Iraq and Afghanistan. This is not too long ago. Right. And people eat it up. They eat it up. And frankly, Joe, I'll be honest with you, that breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to watch it.
It should break your heart because it is heartbreaking. And it's also too, Joe, and this might be unpopular with some people that are joining us at the front line with Joe and Joe. Let's play. This is going to take the conversation to a different place, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. Let me play the clip.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
this is cute. It's not even... You don't know anything about Iran.
So
okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that,
we're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
Israel. High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
I never thought in 2015, when there was all those Republicans on the stage, Joe Rossinello, I never thought I wanted Donald Trump to stop calling people names. And the more I listen to Ted Cruz, and let's talk about this first, I can't help but think to myself, Ted, who I've always supported, I don't live in Texas, but he's been strong on a number of issues. But he said, I'm going to the Senate to be the biggest defender of Israel in the United States Senate. He wants to topple, and Tucker's exactly right. Exactly right. He wants to topple the regime in Iraq, and he doesn't even know some of the basics. He doesn't even know the size of the population. Do you know the size of their army? Do you know the size of their population? How many people in Iran are Christians? Okay? And Catholics. Okay? How many in there how many of those people are going to have to die in this toppling of the regime? You think the regime is going to go lightly? So and when Donald Trump in 2015 called him lying Ted, and I watch a clip like this, I'm saying to myself, I'm sorry, Senator Cruz, I don't believe you. I think you're lying.
It was a damning interview. And frankly, he's not alone. Ted Cruz, while to your point, Joe, he shares some of our beliefs, not all of them, but some of our beliefs. I've seen him as a defender of many of the social beliefs that I support. Not all, again, but some. Give credit where credit's due. He's an example of what we have in levels of power in the Senate and in Congress. This is what we have. The government no longer works for the people. I'll say it again. Call yourself a Democrat. Call yourself a Republican. The government does not work for the people, and that is the perfect example of it. Ted Cruz, on a scale of 1 to 10, as far as like conservatives go, he might be like an 8. He might even be close to a 9. And Ted Cruz right there does not represent the American people right now, who have a 60% point of view on this war, and he could care less. And that should tell you a lot.
Now,
the big beautiful bill should tell you a lot.
You're right.
And this is why, again, people have to open their eyes to this. How are you okay with it? I am not.
Can I tell you how they're okay with it? Okay, and this is going to be the part of the conversation that people don't want to listen to. It's called Christian Zionism. Christian Zionism.
Oh, I hear it. I've heard it.
Yeah, but Joe, you got to remember something. There's a good segment of the American population.
I know. I've heard.
When Ted Cruz runs and says, I'm going to be the biggest defender, and he said it in that interview. It's not in that clip, but he said it in that interview with Tucker Carlson. He said, first and foremost, my support of Israel comes from the book of Genesis. Those who bless Israel will be blessed. Those who curse Israel will be cursed. And Tucker was pressing him on it, and he kept going down that. And this is a fundamental error. Joe, I guarantee you, all the Christians in Texas that are voting for Ted Cruz, and I would vote for him. I would vote for him if I was in Texas. I'm not voting for a Democrat. I'm never going to vote for a Democrat. Okay, it's like you said, 8 out of 10, I'll vote for Ted Cruz. But Christian Zionism is something that needs to be confronted in the wider population, in the wider conversation, I should say, on social media and everything else, because it is a heresy that is condemned by the Catholic Church, and not all Protestants agree with it. But many.
I've heard it out of people's, like, they have it. You see, this is the thing that boggles my mind. I don't know how that they could look at that Old Testament statement literally and compare it to now, because it's a political analysis of the Old Testament, something basically that was stated in the Bible, and they're basically equating that to a political analysis now. It has nothing to do, in my view, of a biblical analysis, yet they will not view the words of Jesus Christ literally when he says, if you do not eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life within you. My flesh is true food and my blood is true drink. You cannot understand that, yet you make a political parallel to you will rest in the land of Canaan. Okay, you want to get literal? Let's get literal. Where is the disconnect?
Right.
To be a big one. I'm not a theologian and I'm not going to speak to it, but I do have ears and I can't understand that. I simply can't, coupled with the fact that the state of Israel, from a political perspective, is infinitely secular. This is not the land of Moses, nor is America the land of Moses or Jesus Christ for that matter. We slaughter children in the womb. So let's be real and like, let's stop cherry picking the Bible.
Well, but again, this is why, I mean, the church has always condemned Christian Zionism. And that's another thing too, just in terms of the Zionist part. And this is a question I'd like to ask you. You know, I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask it anyway for those who are joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe, Zionism is, or to be anti-Zionist is equated, as I mentioned earlier, alluded to earlier, is that means you're anti-Israeli, like in other words, the Israeli people, or you're anti-Jewish, or you're anti-Semitic, or you're all these different names. If you just turn around and say, no, I don't think Israel holds a special place in history anymore. I think that was finished at the destruction of the temple. I'm a Christian. Okay, I'm a Catholic. You're a Catholic. We're Christians. Okay, the second when the temple was destroyed, the Israel of the Old Testament ceased to exist. And the fact is, you have people in this country who deny that truth and say that not only do we have to accept that, but everything Israel does, we have to go to war for. Now, I believe in their right to defend themselves, and I'm willing to help them if, let's say, for argument's sake, they needed help in defending themselves. Okay, but when it comes to what they've been doing in Gaza, I'm also a big proponent of the American people helping the people of Gaza too. And that's not it's not born of any scriptural passage other than do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I agree with humanitarian aid. But this is where, when you tie religion into it, like you mentioned about the politics, this is when you're running into a big problem, because there's a large, and I'll throw it over to you, Joe, there's a large segment of the population that if you are opposed to Christian Zionism or Zionism, you're an anti-Semite.
Well, if you look at the history of Zionism, I forget the gentleman, his name, that came up with the idea. I don't blame him. And I'll just to give people some history. This goes way before Nazi Germany. Jews were persecuted horribly in Russia, in the Ukraine. We're talking about hundreds of years ago. They wanted their own nation, and they got it. Because of that persecution. That's why, to be honest with you, a lot of Orthodox communities are so tightly knit. Their history for a long time has been one of persecution. So I don't fault them for that at all. But one thing I will say, and I'll just speak for a person who has children, and I have a wife, it's not a safe place to live. Israel right now. I've said this on the show many times, if I had a family as a Jewish man, I would not live there, because I'm not going to subject my family to danger. I'm not going to worry when my wife goes shopping that she's not coming home. I'm not going to sleep well knowing that my children can get blown up. It's not a safe place for whatever reason. I could just speak for me. I live in New Jersey, and frankly, you're welcome to live in New Jersey. You could live next to me. I have no problem with you. So my whole point is, the reason why it was founded, I understand. But frankly, right now and for many years, decades, it's not what it was established to be, a safe haven for Jewish people. In fact, it could be more dangerous than many places that Jewish people live throughout North America, even throughout Europe for that matter. You're safer to live in Montreal to be a Jewish person than you are in Israel right now. There is no way I would live there if I was a Jewish man with a family. No chance.
Well, the thing is, but they appealed. But again, this is why we're having this conversation here at the front line with Joe and Joe, because what they do is they are appealing to the world to make them safe from the aggressors around them. And let's face it, the Muslims bring it upon themselves. All right, the Arab nations have brought it upon themselves, going back to, let's say, soon as the state of Israel was founded, they basically 7 nations lined up against them. And that's a part of history where I applaud the Jews. In other words, they destroyed the airplanes right on the airstrips. Okay, they prevented that from happening. Okay, so I get the idea of defending yourself, but this idea, and even Ted Cruz alluded to it correctly in the conversation with Tucker Carlson, which I would encourage people to go and watch. Okay, is that you defend yourself, but then you took control, and Pat Buchanan said this decades ago and got in trouble for it. Okay, you took control of the United States Congress. You made everybody have to sign a pledge to IPAC. IPAC had to make forced everybody to sign a pledge that they're gonna support Israel basically no matter what. Ted Cruz alluded to it. He goes, well, all the Democrats no longer are supporting IPAC. Gee, that's a shock. That they're doing it for different reasons. They're just, they're all crazy and evil anyway. We're talking about people who are on the right. That Thomas Massey came out and said that recently, by the way. I think in an interview with Tucker Carlson.
He wouldn't sign it. I've heard him say
he wouldn't sign it. Cynthia McKinney years ago, she got in a lot of trouble because she wouldn't sign it. If I was a member of Congress, I'd tell him to go wipe his you-know-what with it. I'm not pledging myself to anybody but the United States of America. But this is my 85-year-old Italian mother would say, this is the world that we live in. But the fact is, Trump better be careful. He better be careful because he's going to have people that are going to be leaving him. If he doesn't rectify this situation, because we believe at the front line with Joe and Joe, he's making a big mistake. If he doesn't rectify this situation and yes, he's going to have to keep Netanyahu in line. Okay. He's going to have to strong arm Netanyahu. Okay. He's going to have people defect.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
But how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
I recently visited Hiroshima in Japan and stood at the epicenter of a city that remains scarred by the unimaginable horror caused by a single nuclear bomb dropped in 1945, 80 years ago. It's hard for me to find the words to express what I saw, the stories that I heard, the haunting sadness that still remains. This is an experience that will stay with me forever. Yet this one bomb that caused so much destruction in Hiroshima was tiny compared to today's nuclear bombs. The bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima had a yield of just 15 kilotons of TNT, whereas today's nuclear warheads range in size from 100 kilotons to over 1 megaton. A single nuclear weapon today could kill millions in just minutes. Just one of these nuclear bombs would vaporize everything at its core. This is the reality of what's at stake, what we are facing now. Because as we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. We must reject this path to nuclear war and work toward a world where no one has to live in fear of a nuclear holocaust.
See, here's my thing, and this is going to be unpopular maybe with some people that are watching us at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe, Trump's got to stop. See, he thinks that he's in total control, and he's not. He's got a cabinet around him. And if they start jumping, see, a lot of people voted because Tulsi Gabbard joined his administration, because RFK Jr. joined his administration. He starts alienating, and I'll leave RFK aside for a second. He alienates her. That's going to piss off a lot of people. You know who else it's going to piss off? Me. She's exactly right. If you're monitoring what Iran is doing, okay, then and we could rely, all right, ostensibly rely on the information that we're getting, then, dude, you got to calm down. And by all means, don't tell a reporter you don't care what your director of national intelligence is saying, Donald Trump, okay? Because I'll tell you what, I don't care. Joe, you say it all the time at the front line with Joe and Joe. America's on the brink of going under with $35 trillion in debt. I'm not looking at Donald Trump to be to go to war or to do anything that he's not supposed to be doing. I'm looking at him to listen to the voice of reason within his administration, to do all the things he said he was going to do. And quite frankly, Joe, I'm a little effing disappointed right now in President Trump. And I'm not quite at the point where I'm regretting my vote for him, my third vote for him, by the way, because you can't vote for the party of evil. They're just freaking insane. But he's really, he's a letdown, Joe. He's a big letdown. And he better not chase people like her, a voice of reason, out of his administration. Big mistake.
Let me just give everyone a little bit of a timeline on those clips. Tulsi Gabbard 3 months ago testified, that's what you saw, saying that Iran did not have nuclear capabilities. That was 3 months ago. Now, all of a sudden, Netanyahu gets on ABC and says they do. And then you have Trump recently, a couple days ago, saying, I don't care, to your point, what the director of intelligence just said. They're very close. They have it, whatever he said. And then that clip, that Hiroshima clip, that's new. She did that. Another thing that happened was Trump went to Camp David with his advisors, as all presidents do when there's a crisis, and she was left out. So I'm going to go into Joe Stradamus mode.
All right, I love it. For those of you who've never been here at the front line with Joe and Joe, get ready for Joe Stradamus. It's always a trip.
Tulsi Gabbard.
What's the prophecy, Joe? What's the prophecy?
Tulsi Gabbard is going to leave the administration. She's going to resign. Oh. I don't see her being here by the end of the summer. And Tulsi Gabbard is going to run for president against whoever Donald Trump basically tips his hat to. That is what's going to happen.
But she can't. But here's the thing. I love you, Joe Stradamus, and I'm not going to say that I don't agree. I'm not going to say that I completely disagree with you. But here's the thing, though. She can't run as a Democrat.
Maybe she goes as a third party candidate. All I'm saying is she's a formidable political force. Robert George called this a long time ago. I'm going to tip my hat to Robert George. He said, keep your eye on Tulsi Gabbard. She knows what she's doing.
Well, here's what I would say to you and all the other people out there. And again, I voted for Donald Trump 3 times. Everyone knows Joe and my position on. I'm gonna bring it to abortion for a second. On abortion, Trump gave us the judges that overturned Roe versus Wade. Great. Donald Trump's not going to do anything on abortion. If Tulsi Gabbard moderates her position, even to something that, let's say, a squishy Republican would do, and I'm left with voting for the party of insanity and evil, aka the Democrats, or I have her as a choice, and she at least moderates on abortion, okay, and is an extremist because of the choices we had. Donald Trump, at the end of the day, is no better for us on abortion. So if she's going to actually follow through with MAGA, she got involved with the administration, so she's got to believe in it on some level. If she actually was to follow through on that, and she's not an extremist on abortion, and then they put up a Republican, I'm going to vote for her. I would vote for her. I would. Because we're not getting what we want on abortion. We want abortion abolition. That's not going to happen in our lifetimes. It's not. We're forced to have to vote for someone who, at least to some level, is going to be in favor of abortion rights. We have either that or we stay home. Okay, but if her agenda is the real MAGA agenda and she moderates on that, and she's not as extreme as the Democrat Party that she came from, then I would have no choice but to vote for her, to be honest. Because to me, she would be better than Donald Trump.
What I would say is this. I'm not even putting her up as a savior. I'm putting her up as someone who is firmly anti-war because she actually fought in one. And she actually is principled. Keep this in mind, everybody. And there's the clips to back my statements up. Tulsi Gabbard was given the key by the Democratic Party. She was basically put in the fast lane. She was an ethnic woman who had a military background. She was put in the fast lane, and she gave the key back because she did not like what she saw. She's going to do the same thing with Donald Trump. Now, here is the larger problem. Whoever becomes the president has to face two realities. The deep state will not budge on the military-industrial complex and on corporatism. They own the Congress, who owns the budget. Now, no matter who the president is, it's the same nonsense. That's our enemy. You see, that's where we all have to see and focus. We have to break that to get the country back. The country is fought from 40-yard line to 40-yard line. From the 40-yard line to the goal line is owned by corporatism and by the military-industrial complex, and it doesn't change from president to president.
Right.
That is why I voted for Donald Trump, to break them. And he seems that he's not doing that. Right. Now, the question could be larger. Is it possible? What else has to happen for that to happen, for the country to return to the people? That's what I want. That's what I'm voting for.
MAGA has to make their voices. You remember when Trump first backpedaled on abortion in Florida or in an interview, and he says it's a woman's right, and that totally changed his tune from his first term. And pro-life Catholics in particular and other people of goodwill pushed back against him. This was before the election. And he heard the message, and he changed his tune. Now, whether or not he was lying or not, or whatever the case may be, but he definitely heard the message. MAGA has to send a rather loud message to Donald Trump, say, you will not go to war with Iran. You are not going to drop a bunker buster in Iran. You're not doing it. We didn't vote for that. Leave aside, and it's another conversation here at the front line with Joe, and Joe will have as we approach closer to July 4th and we see what's going on with the big ugly bill, okay? And John Thune and everybody else who seems to want to try to sell it to us, okay? If you got to sell it, that means you're selling me a bill of goods. You're not selling me what we voted for. Donald Trump can get that message. Let's, as Robert said earlier in the chat room, okay, let's pray that not in 2 weeks, tomorrow, Trump comes out and says, we'll support Israel with humanitarian aid and all those who need aid in this conflict. However, he doesn't even have to say that, but however, we are not going to drop bombs on Iran. But now here's another voice that we have to listen to.
The problem is this, and this is most important, Cyrus. If you're President Trump, you sit down with your political advisors, whomever he's talking to these days, probably Lutnick and Witkoff, who are both fervent Zionists. And he says, well, how many senators do I control in a crucial vote in the Senate? And how many senators does Mr. Netanyahu control in a crucial vote in the Senate? Answer, Mr. Netanyahu controls more of the Senate than Donald Trump. Wow. That's probably also true for the House. That's why Washington is this fantasy island. Everybody who lives there is stuffing their pockets full of cash that they get from various lobbies and kickbacks because of their support for military equipment going all over the world or the commitment of U.S. forces somewhere. Donald Trump doesn't seem to have any control over any of it. What can he do? I don't know if you saw him I think it was yesterday, where he was asked directly about Iran.
Right.
And I've seen him in person up close. And this was a very different Donald Trump. He sat there very sort of stone-faced. Well, what about Iran and the negotiations? What's happening? And he sits there and he says, well, you know, they want to enrich uranium and they can't do that. We can't have that. And they have to give up some other things, meaning theater ballistic missiles and so forth. And they won't do that. So I think I've said it, and it's clear the consequences are very dire. And then he sort of sat there.
Right.
This is not a man who wants to go to war.
Right.
Of course not. He's never wanted to go to war against anybody. But what's he going to do now? He's essentially boxed himself in thanks to his wonderful advisors and his readiness to essentially unconditionally support anything Israel and its agents in this country want. He's stuck. So what's the answer? The answer is we're going to have a war with Iran.
I mean, it's almost frightening what Colonel Macgregor was just talking about. That
he's
Donald
not
Trump,
a joke, that dude. You see, that's another thing.
No, he's extremely insightful
and intelligent. Yeah, he has a PhD from UVA. He's a political consultant. He is an Army colonel, a veteran. He has fought in wars. This is a person who's in the know. He's telling you something. Why isn't that conversation on ABC News?
Because I mentioned Pat Buchanan 20 years ago when Pat Buchanan said, and I'm paraphrasing, that basically the only people that were going to be supporting a war with, I believe it was Iraq, or I forgot who it was at the time, the only people going to support that are Israel and their amen corner in the United States Congress, meaning both the House and the Senate. We talked about IPAC earlier. Pat Buchanan was ostracized by conservatives for having said that. Christian Zionists didn't want to hear anything. They liked Pat Buchanan up until he said that. Here we are now 30 years later, and it turns out that it's absolutely true. But it's not that we found out that it's absolutely true. People have been saying it for a long time. Israel has too much power over the United States government. It's a fact. People have testified to it. Cynthia McKinney lost her job because of it, okay? Pat Buchanan was ostracized for saying the same thing. The United States Senate and the United States House of Representatives are controlled right now by Netanyahu. And Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, they want to go to war, Joe. They want to go to war. And that's why Colonel Macgregor is saying war's coming. And Trump is the only one who could stop this from happening. And I'm not heartened by what I just heard from Colonel Macgregor, because he said Trump's sitting there going, well, you know, they do have uranium. Like he's almost like he's defeated because he realizes for whatever reason he doesn't have the power that he thought he had. Let's hope I'm wrong about that. Okay, but the fact is, if in 2 weeks we go to war or sooner, this is going to be a nightmare, Joe. This is going to be a nightmare for us, okay, and for our families and for our country.
The economic ramifications of a war with Iran. Gas will go off the charts. The price of food, because food is shipped by trucks that use gas, will go off the charts. We already have inflation. This is a horrible decision, coupled with the fact, I don't care that he did say in the campaign trail, Iran shouldn't have a nuclear weapon, but that doesn't mean we have to get involved. It's not our business. It is not our business. And the very fact that a man who is in the know, this isn't me, I just do research. Joe just reads. This is a man who is in the know. He has a PhD. He served in the Army. He's a political consultant. He talks to people. People all over the world. He's telling you how the system works. And it's not just with Israel. It's with big pharma. It's with big agriculture. It's with Hollywood. We do not have a country that serves the people. And that's a problem.
No, it's amazing.
And I don't accept, I'll say it again. I will not accept that. I don't accept it, and I will not.
But I thought that we didn't accept it in this very most recent presidential election. I really did. Okay, and again, like I know I say it all the time here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Trump was a disappointment to us as Catholics because of abortion and everything else, okay? But nonetheless, he's still, again, voting for the party of evil is not even a consideration. No Democrat, not one single Democrat you could vote for. They're actually floating right now, Joe, the idea of Bernie Sanders and AOC. I don't know how far they're going to get.
I hope they run.
I hope they run too.
That's ridiculous.
All right. But the thing is this, we voted for all these things. We were excited. And then Elon Musk comes in. He's finding all this corruption. Boom, they get into a fight. He gets into a fight with Bessent, evidently, in the White House. And go ahead, Joe.
Perfect example. Elon Musk, whether you agree with his influence or not, and frankly, he is an oligarch. I get it. He's just an oligarch that worked for, frankly, this one side of the political aisle, whereas George Soros works for the other side. And that's a problem. Another conversation. But Elon Musk discovered fraud. Period. I'm not interested in my tax dollars for many of the things that he uncovered. And this is the point I'm getting at. How was that reflected in this big, beautiful bill? It doesn't seem like it was. And if I was Elon Musk, who lost basically car dealerships, he lost money. He had probably death threats. I would be furious. I am a person my time is worth a lot of money. And I'm going to give you months of my time, and I point you in the direction that could basically save the American people a lot of money, and then you ignore it in the budget. I would be furious.
No, he was right for being furious. And Elon Musk, as far as it goes, he should take some of his money and do what Soros does, pour it into primaries.
Dude, I'll be honest with you, Joe. At this point, if I was Elon Musk, I would go live somewhere else. You see, this is what people don't get. People like Elon Musk, it doesn't matter who the president is. He has money. There are rich people all over the world, in the poorest countries in the world, in Haiti, in the Middle East. Not the Middle East, because that Middle East has probably more money than we do right now. But in like Central America, all over the world, there are rich people. They're above the fray. We, the people, are not. Elon Musk doesn't have to be bothered. He can go live anywhere in the world. He can move to London, move to Singapore, move anywhere, to Dubai. He'll have a great life. It's you and me. It's our children that are not, because our country doesn't represent us anymore. And if you think so, you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. You don't see through the fog. It's time to start doing a little bit of research, doing some reading, and frankly, opening your eyes to reality.
Well, Joe, is it a matter of not seeing through the fog, or is it a matter of not seeing through your ideological blindness?
Well, there's that problem too, Joe. There's that, and here's the thing. I hope people take note of it. Joe and I supported Donald Trump. We're being very critical on this show. Are you willing to be critical for your political ridiculous?
I don't think there's a lot. I don't think there's a lot of people out there. They're not willing. See, it is idolatry to a degree. Not for every. There's a lot of MAG out there. People that watch us at the front. By the way, Joe. So our new plan at the front line with Joe and Joe evidently is going very well. We have 160 right now in the watching right now, which is awesome. And if you're joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, please like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Help us out if you like these conversations. We go Thursday nights, 9:00 Eastern time is when we go across social media. So thank you for joining, especially people who are watching us for the first time. It's idolatrous, Joe. Because a lot of people voted for Donald Trump, whether they want to admit it or not, because they see him as somebody who is infallible. When we know, I mean, just look at that one clip where he says, "I don't care what Tulsi Gabbard has to say." Are you kidding me? I voted for you. You're going to make the left be right in their characterization of you that you're a bully? Because that sounds bullying to me. Like I don't care, or dismissive. I don't really care what she had. You don't care what she had to say. She's your DNI. You're supposed to be getting information from her, not the Mossad. Okay, so she's giving you information, and you're saying that, well, I don't really care what she has to say. And the problem is, Joe, that too many people find this conversation. If many MAGA heard this conversation, Joe, they would be upset with you and me. And you and me are just trying to sift through everything because I don't have Republican conservative ideological blinders. I've changed a lot of my ideology over the years. Okay. I used to be knee-jerk conservative, can't do anything wrong. That's a big pile of BS. I used to watch Sean Hannity. I don't anymore because it's all ideology. Trump can't do anything wrong. If Trump does this, Joe, as we said at the top of the show a few times, it's a big freaking mistake, and people need to start pointing it out to him and stop worrying that you're going to defend your Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. He's not your Lord and Savior. Only Jesus Christ is. But you people better get it through your head. He can make a mistake. And if he goes to war with Iran, that's going to be a big one. And mistake number 2 is going to be if he signs the big, ugly bill in a couple of weeks. That'll be mistake number 2. And I'll tell you what, J.D. Vance, whoever takes the MAGA mantle after Trump fails and loses to the Democrats in the midterms, all right, better not act like Donald Trump, because guess what? Next time I mean it, I'm staying the hell home.
Listen, I'll be truthful with you. Like yourself, over the years, my eyes have been opened. Many people have. I credit that, frankly, to information. I say this time and time and time again. We are living in an age where there's a lot of crap out there, but there's also a lot of good information if you dig for it. Look to the right places, all types of places. It doesn't have to be like an ideological place. There's people, frankly, that I don't share all the same views, but I say maybe I get my geopolitical news from, because they have insight. They're intelligent. They're not owned. And this is what people need to do. And frankly, people also have to stop being selfish, because are we concerned about our children? You know, this is something that too, because I live in New Jersey, and this is like New Jersey politics. People take their one little stupid issue because it suits them and somehow compartmentalize everything else. Meanwhile, the whole state goes to crap. We have to look past that. Do you care about the future of the nation, the future for your children? Many experts, not me, they're saying our children aren't going to have the life that we had. Doesn't that bother you? It bothers me.
And the fact is, our life ain't that great.
Well, I'm just talking about basic things like home ownership, like being able to go to college, being able to have with AI that's coming around. These were things that very regular people enjoyed. They're disappearing.
Yeah.
Does that bother you? It should.
And
too many people hold on to their little carrot, whether it's abortion, same-sex marriage, whether it's their union, and then they don't care. Well, guess what? It's going to affect you too.
Well,
because it is. And if it's not you, it's going to affect your kids.
Well, that's right. And then when you just have one issue, and yeah, abortion's a big part of it. There's a lot of people that won't vote for anybody who's not at least to a certain degree pro-abortion. Okay. And you don't look at everything else. Then what happens is, Joe, you end up like California. And I guarantee you this, if Elon Musk leaves, he ain't going to California.
Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass, I got a question for you. With all the riots that's taking place in your great city of LA and state of California, do you guys have any plans of telling these folks to stop? I noticed on X, neither one of you guys had said anything. Does that mean you support it? If you don't say anything and it takes you hours not to do this, maybe this is a strategy. It gets a lot of people to question and say, maybe this is going to continue, this behavior of rioting is going to bleed into other states like Texas, like New York, like Illinois, maybe even in DMV, you know, DC, Virginia, Maryland area, maybe other states, maybe Phoenix, Arizona a little bit, because this is a plan. If it isn't, Mayor Bass, respectfully, I don't expect you to do anything, because I do think you support illegal immigration based on what you said about 20 hours ago. Gavin Newsom, Governor Newsom, a state I lived in for 24 years, a city, LA, I lived in for 24 years. You've been shown the last 9 months that you want to come a little bit more to the center. And maybe you're starting to realize you guys had some terrible policies that caused $1 trillion of money under management to leave your state. Hundreds of thousands of great job creators, great citizens left your state, and a lot are waiting to leave your state. Any plans of saying anything or doing anything? A lot of people were caught on camera throwing things at marshals, U.S. marshals, at cops. Do you want support federally from President Trump? This type of behavior shows you're not going to get any of it and you don't want it. But if you were to say something, maybe this is a good time. It's a good time for them to hear from their governor. Stop behaving this way. We do not support it. For everybody else who either lives in California, once lived there, or wants to see that state be great again, tag Mayor Bass and Gavin Newsom. Maybe we'll get their attention.
And he's making all the sense in the world, but it ties into what we were talking about. How on earth do the people of California, when they're looking at what's going on in LA, what we've covered on this show 1 million times about San Francisco, the elites that live there. You got elites and you got the poor. You got for those joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, I'll remind you of an image Joe and I have spoken about many times. It was an image came out a couple years ago. It was going across social media of you got a group of people sitting on the Sidewalk Cafe in San Francisco. They're eating foie gras and they're drinking Grey Goose. And in the foreground of the picture is a guy defecating in the gutter. That is what Gavin Newsom wants. That is what Karen Bass wants. That's what Barack Obama wants. That's what the entire Democratic Party want. They want rich. They want poor. And what are they doing in LA? And there's a guy lived there for 24 years, PBD, Patrick Bet-David, right? I like that guy. I like him a lot, all right? Makes a lot of sense. It's like, how do we feel as though this is not by design? How do you let people throw things at your cops? Your cops, Mayor Bass, are getting attacked. Not just ICE officers, your cops are getting attacked. How do these people call themselves leaders if they don't even protect their own police from thugs who are throwing rocks and bricks, all, by the way, funded by George Soros? How did they do that? That is what's going on in California right now and what they would like the consequence to be. They want for the rest of the country. I'm glad PBD mentioned, you think Texas is immune to this, Joe? You think Arizona? I'm in Arizona.
Nowhere is, Joe. It's going to spread. It's going to continue.
And the only way, Joe, and I'll throw it over to you, these people have power is because of the reason why you said. Because people focus on one issue. They make it the most important reason for their existence. Usually it's abortion. And then other things that are attendant features of abortion, like homosexuality and other stuff, okay? And they say, well, that guy's for me, so I don't care about everything else. Good. But then when the thugs burn your house down, remember, you friggin' voted for it.
Ultimately, safety is not a political issue. But again, people compartmentalize it because of the one issue that they want. Again, whether it's same-sex marriage, whether it's transgenderism, whether it's abortion. And they're willing to look the other way as the city turns into a third world country, third world city, however you want to put it. My whole point is this should not be happening in America, but it is. And California is the most beautiful state in the United States, and it is a wasteland. An absolute and utter wasteland. And the policies of the Democratic Party are to blame. That cannot be argued. You controlled the presidency for 12 years. 12. All of the policies. I watched it right with my own eyes, how New York changed pre-COVID, post-COVID. I watched it. New York is coming up on California. You own it, and they still support it. Joe, this is where I'll be honest with you. It's like schizophrenia. Honest to God, are you concerned for your wives and children? I am. I don't want my family to live in that. So what are you going to do about it? Honestly, because their policies permitted this. They did. That's reality. That's not me being a Republican. That's me just having eyes. It's time to put down the ideology and start embracing some common sense.
But to put down the ideology means that you have to be able to see exactly what the tactics and the goals of the left are and have been for decades. This is not a recent phenomenon. No, for decades. Okay. By the way, Lewis is in the chat room. He says we're both bald. I want to tell him, Lewis, I'm the bald one. Joe actually has hair. I'm the bald one. He's balding, but I'm actually bald. All right. And the thing is, you know, if we would just stop letting them win the argument by saying that's just conspiracy theory, that's just good. Los Angeles is burning. In 2020, Minneapolis and Seattle and these other places were burning. We watched them and do exactly what they wanted to do. All these thug groups and all these Democrat mayors and governors did nothing about it. And then you're going to sit there and tell me that this is not by design. And I blame the people that voted for them. And not because they're stupid. I'm not going to say that. I'm not like them. And I'm not going to insult them. But what they do is what you said. They focus on one issue. That's the most important thing. I think Mary's in the chat room said, or Antonella said, it's because of feminism. So when you talk about, let's say, the umbrella of feminism, you're talking about the sexual liberation movement. E. Michael Jones has said this a million times. Sexual liberation is a form of political control, and it's playing itself out since the time Joe and I were coming out of our mother's wombs. Okay, since the 1960s, this has been playing itself out. When are people going to realize when you vote for somebody because they're just going to give you free sex and love and protect your precious right to kill your kid in the womb? You're a slave, dude. Whether you're a man or a woman, I'm calling you dude. You're a slave. And when you're a slave, you know what you won't do? You won't stand up to Karen Bass, and you won't stand up to Gavin Newsom. You won't stand up to Gretchen Whitmer. You won't stand up to Andrew Cuomo, and all during COVID. You won't stand up because as long as they protect your precious right to kill your baby in the womb, you're just A-okay with that, and everything else be damned. And I'm going to say it one more time. When they come and they burn your house down, don't come crying to Joe and Joe, because we don't want to hear it. We have a final clip we want to give to you, but Joe, I'm going to give you the final word.
Robert Griffin, cultural Marxism. We are in the throes, many, of a cultural revolution in America. It began even before the summer of 2020. There are nefarious people behind that. Even the chief of police of Los Angeles said that many of the protesters are not from the city. People wearing masks, they're hired. They've come there to basically stir up violence and create chaos, to basically cause instability in our cities. This has been going on, and we just saw it last weekend. How are you okay with that? How are you okay with that? Because of your one stupid issue? Your one stupid issue? That, by the way, is destroying the fabric of America. Your stupid issue is destroying the fabric of America. You just won't see it.
Joe, do you know that 20%? Do you know that 20% of women age 18 to 25, if I heard this, I believe I heard the statistic correctly, are making money on OnlyFans? And does that tell you? You know what OnlyFans is, right?
No, I don't actually.
Basically, basically it's a high tech peep show. That's all it is. You go live and people pay you oodles of money for you to do all sorts of things that on a wholesome family show like the Frontline with Joe and Joe, we don't describe. But basically it's pornography, and they're selling themselves is what they are. 18 to 25 years old, 20% of those women in America. And then they're going to tell me that sexuality is just a private matter. It's women like that. And the men who, by the way, support it. The men who support it.
But also, Joe, that comes from the breakdown of the family. People are families. These are wounded people. Like, society is crumbling from its smallest cell. All these things do not promote healthy people. And yes, they're not healthy.
No,
when you're selling sex at 19 years old on the internet, you're not healthy. Something's wrong. Something's broken. And there's too much of that in many different fronts. People who have healthy families, it's not mathematical, aren't doing that.
No, they're not.
They're simply not. And that's where it all comes down to. We've lost our way. America is unmoored. There's a deep cancer in America, and politics isn't going to solve it. It's not going to solve it. We have to get back to center. Not politically. We have to get back to God. Yes. That's the answer, Joe. All of our problems stem from that. Every single one of them.
Our main thing, and then we're going to leave you with a clip from Bannon as we head out tonight here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Great crowd tonight, 150. That number's going to grow. Joe, our goal is to make sure every night we go on, we have 1,000 people watching. But please, if you guys are watching this, like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. If you're just joining us, we had a lot of clips in here, so please go back and watch the whole show. Joe and I like to think we have an entertaining conversation. We hope that you do too. It's got to come down, not to some squishy Christianity. I don't want to hear about this squishy Christianity where there's no guardrails. You mentioned corporatism. You could talk about feminism. You could. Robert talked about cultural Marxism. If we don't come back down to authentic, and I mean authentic Christianity, at least to the point we can agree there are things as a society we're not going to allow, pornography being one of the main ones, okay, one of the main culprits, then guess what? All the crap that goes on in the world, Joe, the bottom line is everything is just going to keep spiraling down the same toilet. That's all that's going to happen. Joe, I think this was a pretty good conversation. How about you?
I do too. I hope everyone else does. And please keep watching. And thanks for your support.
Absolutely. So thanks again. I'm going to leave you with a clip from Steve Bannon. But remember, we go live 9 o'clock Eastern time, Thursday nights across a number of social media sites, which you're probably watching us on right now. So wherever you are, we don't ask for much. We don't ask for money. We just ask you to help us to get our message out. If you think it's worthy and you think people might want to hear it, please do so. So thanks once again. We'll see you next week. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.
If you were able to see the president in the next couple of days when he gets back, what would be the 2 or 3 things you would tell him, Mr. President, this is my heartfelt advice about where we are right now for the country?
I can tell you because I try to speak exactly the same way. You know me. I speak exactly the same in private. I use the F word more. But in general, I say the same things. And I would say to him, like, you're the only person who can bring peace. You should continue to try and do that. It's difficult. It takes a long time. But your timetable is the only timetable that matters. Don't get bum rushed. You don't need to fix this because there's political turmoil in Bibi's coalition. Like, right. That's not relevant.
He's at 30% approval is not your problem.
Yeah, just because some ultra-Orthodox party doesn't want to be conscripted or whatever's going on in Israel, these are long-time problems that country has had. That's not relevant to our plans or to your plans as the leader of the free world, okay? A. B, if you get involved in a war that includes American troops and force, if you're lobbing missiles from submarines into Iran.
Or combat sorties. You're doing combat sorties. I actually say we're combatant now, but I mean, you could basically argue maybe not.
I just want to pretend we're not.
Okay.
Because,
yes.
Of course we are, but I want to pretend we're not because we're in the final stages of being able to pull back.